T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Royal Table Talk. Here is where we come together to break the silence about sexual, spiritual, emotional, financial, and physical abuse. Each week, we deliver a candid conversation on how to step into your resilience, start living again, and push past the negative chatter that has been instilled by abuse. These dialogues are filled with strategies for eliminating past trauma that prevents you from embracing your freedom. Now, here is your host, Toyia Conway Hampton.
Such things, you are so different. It's like you are made over. You are, shifted, not in a box, but in a way that you're just pouring and oozing out for other people. And this is what I've seen from her from the very beginning. And now we've been friends now probably about 7 years. Again, introduce to some and present to others. My friend, my sister, Miss Margaret Packer. Hey, honey. We have a clapper over here because definitely you deserve it. And then the other one that's my favorite is awesome because you are very awesome and you're awesome to me. Royal Table Talk is really about breaking the silence about some things that we've been through that maybe we've never talked about, maybe we're uncomfortable about talking, what goes on in our life. And so today, I want you to introduce who you are, why you decided to come on at such short notice, but just passionate about what you mentioned before we went live. Could you please tell my guests who you are?
I am Margaret Packer. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm someone who always continues to reach for the next. Like I live a life reading books. I live a life really transforming my own life. That's who I am.
Well, I love that. And you're so modest because you do so much more. You're very impactful. You've made an impact in my life because when my days are dark and I'm going through things, even if you'll just pop out of the blue, hi, I love you. Just go ahead with your day. But I just thought you needed to know that type of impact that you have on the lives of others come from a place. So tell me, where do you believe that impact that you have on wanting to help others come from?
I gotta say, my need to want to help other people is because I felt as a young child that I always needed help. And I wasn't the one to raise my hand for help. And so for the ladies who are on the call, who they're afraid to ask for help, they're afraid to show that they need help, I'm here for you because I was that girl. I felt like everything was okay in my life. And it wasn't. And so for the quiet people, that's who I'm here for. The quiet people, the people who don't want to be seen, the people who don't want to be heard, the people who don't ask for help. That's why I'm here.
Wow. You're going to advocate for the ones who don't know how to break their silence. They just live in that dark, quiet place. And they need Margarets to be there to advocate for them. Sometimes you don't know how to say no, right? Sometimes you need friends to tell you, just say no. Just say no. So our conversation today is about domestic violence. And if you could come with me, I would be really excited to have you to share what brought your family into the attention of domestic violence. Did you grow up with it in your home? Was it just a spare of the moment? You guys just connected? Tell me how you ended up in an abusive relationship.
Thank you for that question. So I promise you, it's been through coaching, it's been through counseling that I've gone through, that I realized that my mom was abusive to me. My mom was emotionally abusive to me. Um, she had a lot of intimidation with me,
Mm.
and that's what I clung to. So my mom was abusive to me. Then when I got married to the same person that I was trying to get away from.
Mhm. Mhm.
So my mom was an abuser, and then my first husband was an abuser. And he abused me several different ways. He abused me with emotional abuse. He abused me with intimidation, coercion, threats. He abused me by minimizing, denying, and blaming. And then he also abused me with trying to keep me isolated.
Uh,
So yeah, he abused me in that way. And so it wasn't until I went to, so let me stop
okay.
that part. So I'm done with that part. So what's the next question?
Okay.
Because I don't want to give too much, because I know you got some other questions.
Okay. So it sounds like that you went from mom house being abused to I need to get out of here. This is not working. And then because you didn't understand what the red flags were, you was actually attracted to what was unhealthy for you. So you get in this
Yes.
relationship with a young man. How long did you stay with him? And then what helped you get out?
Lord Jesus, let me tell y'all something. He was the love of my life. He was the love of my life. I had dated other people, but he was the love of my life. And I was married to him for 20 years. I had 3 children with him. That's a long time.
A long time.
That's a long time. And I realized that I was in an abusive relationship when I I had pictures of my grandparents on my wall.
Mhm.
And when I took the picture of my grandparents down and I faced it to the wall, I realized I was in a problematic situation. And my first child was probably 2. My first child was probably 2. That's when I realized that I was in a, oh, what the heck is going on? And I kept making it be okay. Whenever something would happen, I had police come to my house because he had me trapped in a bedroom. And so my neighbors were talking to me outside of the house. And then they became distant to me. I kept a straight arm with them because he wanted me to keep a straight arm with them. He didn't want to get kicked out of the military. He didn't want to go to the brig. And so that's when I learned how to stay quiet. That's why I didn't want to tell anybody what I was going through.
Wow. Wow. So 20 years in an abusive relationship with 3 children. Would you say that your kids were affected? And can you actually see some of the trauma in their life right now? Tell us a little bit
Absolutely.
about
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure that it affected all 3 of my kids. Um, but probably who I've seen it in the most is my daughter. My daughter is the youngest one. She's 19, and she was in an abusive relationship. And so I know that she had seen different patterns. Now, I wasn't married long to him after she was born, but I see the patterns in my daughter. And I also see it probably mostly in my firstborn son, because he has a girlfriend and he has 2 children. And I can easily tell when something is going on in their relationship.
So I want to go back a little bit because you shared a little bit that you can see it in your daughter and you wasn't in it long because it replicated from the oldest child to the next child down to the baby child. And those patterns become a part of our DNA. It's the way we think, it's the way we process, it's just the way that we do things. So I am excited that you recognize that because so many times people don't recognize that. They're like, I don't know what's wrong with my kids. They're having a hard time. No, they was exposed to some of our craziness somewhere, somehow, and because of it, their decisions are made based on a trauma narrative that's in their minds. And so I'm glad that she made it out. And I am also glad that you can point it out. Okay, I need to get out. I need to be able to move on and move forward. And so not only can I protect myself, but my children, right? Because
Yes.
it just replicates. And because you made it out, it may not stop the generation that your kids are in, or maybe their kids, but your great grandkids will have a better chance to not be involved in it because you got out of it, right? Because you made the decision to get out. Because once that process
Absolutely.
goes, it goes. So I do know that you're married to a wonderful man right now. Tell me,
Yes.
how has it been being remarried with a guy that you, because you have to build up on that. It just don't happen. And you bring a lot of baggage into the marriage. How has that been for you and also for your husband?
Well, let me tell you, I dated him for 4 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And he had asked me to get married, asked me to get married, asked me to get married. And each time I would say no, because I needed to make sure I was going to be okay.
That's right.
And it wasn't until my grandmother had passed away that I went back to Nebraska and I was able to talk to my godmother. And my godmother has been married 2 times. With the first set of kids, she had 5 kids. With the second set of kids, she had 3 kids. And all of the kids loved her husband. And it was really at that time that I thought, oh my gosh, my kids can actually love my husband, because I saw how it worked out for my godmother. And so after the funeral, I came back to California and I looked at my boyfriend and I said, ask me again, ask me again.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so then we got married 10 months later. And I want to say it has not necessarily been easy for him, because there was still a lot of stuff going on in my head. Like the number one thing I would tell him, you're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. Because my ex-husband had been trying to be the boss of me.
Right.
And he said, Margaret, I'm not trying to be the boss of you. He said, I just want you to be safe. And now we've been married for 10 years. And so some of it comes up a little bit. It's not like I'm completely free of it.
Right.
But it tries to enter in. And that's when I have to go back to knowing who I am, knowing who he is.
And understanding the real relationship. You bring highlight to a good point when sometimes in those relationships, because I too got married, and it was a challenge, and I know it was a challenge for him because I had 7 kids at the time, and they would be so not happy at points like, I want my daddy, and so I had the kids on one end wanting to be with their dad, and then on the other end I had me like, am I really comfortable in this relationship? I didn't understand that I had to really put closure to that relationship, because I had reservation in the back of my head that I didn't understand that I had until I started working this process. And so I am glad, definitely, that you made a decision. And I want to say this, I got a chance to meet your husband a couple times. And one time I was in his house, a few times I was in his house, but I spent the night, and he takes good care of you. I appreciate that. You seem happy, and the way he looks at you makes me happy. Like, oh, so precious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because after being abused, sometimes you don't get that. You don't look for it. You don't want it. Actually, you don't know how to receive it. Like, that is not
right.
Right. Tell me what was the hardest part about being in a new relationship after being in that abusive relationship for 20 years?
Oh, wow. I feel like the hardest part was for me to trust the fact that he wasn't going to hurt me. He wasn't going to hurt me financially. He wasn't going to abuse me with his words. Like, he was not going to do no psychology stuff on me. And I want to say it took quite a long time for me to actually trust him.
Mm.
So when I asked him to ask me again, that's when I knew I trusted him to be married to him.
Hmm. Yeah. And so how did your kids receive that? What was the hardest thing for the kids to embrace after watching mom? Because one of my sons said, he said, we're grown men now. They teenagers. We're grown men now, and now you finna come take my mother. Like, we gonna be lions too. We gonna bark if you try to come here and hurt my mom. How was it with your sons when you got with your husband, and how did they embrace him, or not?
Okay. So the entire time I was dating my husband, um, I want to say my sons were kind to him. They were kind to him. I don't necessarily think that they trusted him. My daughter, she was easy to tell him that she loved him, but her actions said different. Like, she would tell him little things that I knew that it was my ex-husband telling her to say those things.
Mm-hmm.
For my sons, you know what? I haven't even thought about it, but it did take a long time for them to actually embrace him. So by the time I got married, I know my second son had embraced him. He wasn't yet to call him Pops, but he did embrace him. My oldest son didn't embrace him until we lived in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that was probably about 6 years ago is when my oldest son had called my husband and said, "Happy Father's Day, Pops."
Wow.
And when he said that, it was a blessing to my, because I knew that he recognized how my husband treated me. Because let me tell you, anytime I'm going anywhere and I'm getting ready to leave the house, my husband will walk me out of the house. He will open my car door for me. And I felt like he would stop doing that when I was dating him, which is why I didn't want to get married so quickly. I thought that he would stop doing that. He never stopped doing it. And now my grandsons run to open my car door for me anytime we're going somewhere. If we go somewhere, they get out of the car and they open the door for me because of what they've seen my husband do.
He's instilled that in them.
Yes, very much so.
Good job. Good job. I'm so excited about how you live today. And I use the word excitement because when I look at survivors and I know some of their story, and then I get to see them on the other side, it just warms my heart. Yesterday when my son did the show, he said, "Mom, you always talked about helping these women, and now you get to do it." And so last night I reflected, about being in a place where it's not really about me. I'm taking care of myself as best as I can, and I know how, but it's really not about me. It's about how can we leave trails for other women to not only get out and get a healthy relationship, but learn to love themselves again, right? Or learn how to embrace another person. So in closing, if you could say something to a survivor, that will really help them get out and get on their own, what would you tell them?
I would, first of all, the first thing I would tell them is trust God. Trust God, because He will lead you. He will guide you.
Yes.
He is that soft, sweet voice that you hear in your head. You can do it.
Yes.
You can do it. You can do it.
Wow. You can do it. You can do it. I use a quote often: "To whom much is given, much is required," because to me, I feel like I've been given a life beyond my wildest dreams. So I'm required to give back on a level that most people get tired, bored, or they in it for the wrong reason. But I get to keep moving,
Right.
to keep serving. And I see you have a servant heart. And I thank you so much for being a part of this process for me. I thank you, and I'm looking forward to having you on later so we can have real deep conversation.
So hold on one second.
Go.
Hold on one second, Latoya. The one thing that I do want to give to the ladies is this book. It's No Matter What. It's by Lisa Nichols. And it's a self-help book. It says you can overcome every obstacle, 9 steps to living the life you love.
Yes.
Y'all get this book. Don't just read the book. I'm going to say do the book, because in this book comes action steps.
Yes.
And action steps is what's going to help you. I promise this book is going to help you. If you read it and you do the action steps, it's going to help you. It literally helped me. It saved my life.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that gift. As we close, again, I thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you spending time with me today. I appreciate you taking time out to give to others. You know, I believe that the best way to keep what you have is by giving it away. And so
Yes.
we get to live another day. We get to be in good relationships, healthy, responsible relationships. And so we also have to give back. And so thank you so much, Margaret. I love you. I love you. I appreciate you. I love you. Hearts right back at you, my sister.
Yep.
And I will see you soon. So look forward to our conversation next month, because you don't get to get off the hook. I love you.
Okay. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.